Hello everybody, welcome to my studio on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. I hope you are all ready to paint. Oh my goodness. It's a little cold here today. I have my heater on behind me, so if it's too loud for you guys, let me know. I've got it on low, but it's really cold in my studio today, so I hope wherever you're at, it's not too cold. And I've got my Chiefs shirt on. Chiefs are playing tonight, so I got to be rooting on my team. Got to be rooting them on. Hi, Susan. Hi, Linda. Hi, Andrea. Hi, Cindy. Thank you so much for coming. Oh, thank you, Susan. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Anne. I love my shirt too. I almost didn't wear it. I thought, no, I got to have it on. I got to be rooting the Chiefs on all day long. So I'm excited about the game tonight. So I am a big Chiefs fan here. Oh my gosh, you guys. Alrighty. We're going to let a few more come in. Hi, Holly. How are you? Good to have you here. Hi, Rose. I hope a lot of you are going to be painting with me today. I think you're really going to enjoy this one. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't have a lot of technical stuff in it. I think the roses might overall be the most technical, but I'm really going to try and simplify it for you so that you don't get stressed out about roses, because everybody gets stressed out about roses, and I don't want you to get stressed out. So I'm thinking that this project will take about an hour and a half. I'm hoping a little less than that. So if you're wondering on a time frame, that's about how long I'm expecting. Hi, Joanne. It's cold where you're at too, Susan. Yeah. It started out, our week started out nice. We had, like on Tuesday, I think it was, Monday or Tuesday, we had like 55 degrees, and then it dropped way down. We had like high of 5 degrees 2 days later, and it was just, oh my gosh, so cold outside. Just ridiculous. Hi, Jean. Susan, you're watching, so you can see it all. No distractions. We'll practice the roses. Okay. I will try my best to make them simple and stress-free, but you know, you don't have to paint roses. If you like some other flower in there, then go for that. But hi, Emma. Yes, you love roses. Great. This is going to be a fun one. Now, on my original one, I painted it on an 8x10 canvas panel, and I thought I had more 8x10 canvas panels. I actually ordered a whole bunch this week of canvas panels, but I didn't order 8x10 size because I thought I still had some. But I didn't have any left in my studio that I could find unless I've hidden them somewhere, which is a possibility. That could be somewhere that I don't know, because we bought new outlet covers and new outlets for our upstairs for all the rooms. And we were painting in here several months ago, all the upstairs rooms except for this one, and we don't know what we did with them. We looked everywhere in the house, in the garage, in the shop. We don't know what we've done with them. I'm sure they will turn up eventually, but it would be nice to have them now so we could have that project off of our to-do list. But all right, you guys, so I'm painting on a masonite board that I have prepped, which will not paint exactly like a canvas. Now, if you're painting on a canvas, you do not have to prep it in any way, but I like to prep mine with either a couple of coats of white chalky gesso or a couple of coats of white paint, and I use my 2-inch foam roller to do that so I can get nice smooth nice smooth layers on there. Spit my words out here in a minute. And so I don't have a lot of, build up or anything, but it makes the canvas more smooth. I don't like for my canvases to be overly textured, and some of them that I get are just way too textured, and you almost have to scrub the paint to get it to go into the canvas, and I don't want to have to work that hard when I'm painting. So I am going to make myself a little up here, and we've got our picture of what we're painting here, and you can see my canvas. I've got a paper plate out because we're going to start with that. So this is my original one. Now, I did put a link below this video of the photograph that I referenced on Unsplash. So if you want to see what the original one looks like, you can do that. I tried to stay pretty true to it. I hand drew this off of that photo that I was looking at on my computer. So, I'm hoping that I got fairly close. I know that my stick thing is not the same because that one is a really tall photograph like it's on a 24-inch canvas or something. I don't know, or it's just sitting on a table, but the stick that comes way out of the top here is really, really tall. Hi, Jan from Connecticut. Thank you. It is a beautiful design, and I think the reference photo was, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to paint that. So I was happy that I came across of it. That's one of the websites that you can go to that you can get royalty-free photos to use in your painting. So if you guys are ever looking for a photograph and you want to try your hand at designing your own stuff, painting up your own stuff, then go check out Unsplash, Pexels, and Pixabay are 3 that I use, and they have royalty-free photographs that you can use to reference from and paint up. So this one is from Unsplash. Okay. All right, so we are going to get started, and I might have to turn my heater off because now that I'm talking and all this hot air is coming out of me, I'm starting to get a little bit hot. So I might reach back here and turn it off real quick. Maybe. There we go. All righty. Okay, Linda, you're painting on 11 by 14. Okay, that's great. If you didn't enlarge your pattern any, then you can take your sticks up a little bit higher on yours, and that will be a gorgeous painting. I love, too, how this is offset from the center, but it kind of works its way over into the center part of the canvas, so I really love just the whole setup of this thing. I think it is gorgeous. All right, let's get going. Hello, Gwen. You're just watching today. Oh, you're sick with COVID. I'm so sorry, girl. I'm so sorry. And a lot of people getting that. Our grandson got it, and he's been all vaccinated up too. So, okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm measuring up 2 inches from the bottom of my canvas. Now, this is just a 2-inch ruler. You can use a T-square and make a mark and mark that. You just want to make sure that you are even on the bottom down here, so your line will be fairly straight. I do want to tell those of you that ordered a packet that I left off a paint color on the paint list. So you might want to, if you've printed it off, you might want to write it down. Make a note of it. I put the new packet up on the website, so I don't know if you want to go back and try and re-downloading it, if it will even let you or not. But if you've ordered the packet and you want an updated one, just let me know. Email me at lonnalambdesigns@gmail.com, and I will check to make sure that you've ordered, and then I will send you an updated copy that has that paint color in there because we need that color. So it's midnight blue. If you don't have midnight blue, you can use deep midnight blue. If you don't have that, you just need a dark blue, one that's fairly kind of a transparent dark blue. A royal blue would work just fine, and we can add a little bit of black into that to darken it up a little bit. It's not quite as dark as midnight blue. You could use navy blue. It's a little bit more opaque, so you have to use a little bit thinner layers with it, but it will work. So I've drawn my line here. I'll set this ruler aside because we won't need that one. We will need our T-square later to make sure that what we're drawing on here is straight, and I should probably get my line drawing out so that I'll be able to put it on here in a minute. I'm going to be taping this off, and we're going to paint our top part of our canvas here. Sorry, I'm trying to put that packet back behind some papers there. So I'm going to take some Scotch tape. You can use masking tape, blue painter's tape, green painter's tape, whatever kind of tape you have will be just fine, but Scotch tape works just as well. So I'm going to tape off below the line. Just tape it right off there. Okay, I'm going to mix some paint here, you guys. So we're going to mix gray and white together. I like the gray sky for the background, but it was a little darker than what I wanted. Linda, you enlarged it 138%. Okay, that should work out just fine. So we're going to do one gray and 2 white. So we've got 1 gray and 2 white there. And I'm going to take my palette knife and mix those together. Now, when I paint large areas, even when I'm base coating a lot of stuff, there are 2 ways that I do it. I either use a 2-inch foam roller or a dampened artist sponge. I'm going to be using both today just because I can't go and clean my stuff in between. Usually I do one and then I go and clean whatever I'm using, and then come back and what I've painted is dry and I can move forward with using the same tool, whether it be a sponge or a 2-inch foam roller. So this one is dry at the moment. I've got my sponge soaking in water so it can be nice and wet. But I don't want this soaking in water because I don't want water to get down in there, into the part down there. Because if you get water in there and then you don't get it out, then when you're rolling, water can fling out of there, and then it will just remove your paint. So I'm going to put this down in the water and let it soak up some water up into that sponge. And y'all know why we start with a damp sponge, okay, or a damp 2-inch foam roller. It's because now the roller or the sponge is filled with some kind of liquid, so it won't soak up all of your paint, and it will release the paint as you use it. You don't have to worry about, you know, using so much paint because your roller is just soaking it all up, or your sponge is just soaking it all up. It's same with your paintbrush. You rarely use a paintbrush dry unless you're doing some kind of dry brushing or scrubbing with the paint. Your brush is always damp, so it will let go of the paint, okay, not hold it in there. So that's the same thing with your sponges and your foam rollers and all that stuff. It all works the same way. So we're going to roll on our gray up here. You can certainly paint it on with a paintbrush or a sponge. I did my original one with a sponge, but I didn't want to have 2 sponges sitting in my water. So I thought, well, I'll just paint the top part with a roller. Now I'm giving it less and less pressure and smoothing out. This will create less texture because rollers can create a lot of texture in your project if, you know, mostly if you've got too much water in your roller and you're pushing way too hard to get it on there. So now I'm going to dry this. It's a small area. It shouldn't take too incredibly long. And if you're new to my channel, you might want to hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up and the notification bell so you know when I'm doing a live. And check out all my other videos. I have over 200 videos on my YouTube channel, and a packet for every one of them, I believe. All right. Let's put another coat on here. This should be a pretty quick process here. Okay, I want to remove the tape while the paint is wet. Whatever tape you're using, remove it while the paint is wet. If you let the paint dry and it dries over that tape, there is a possibility that when you remove the tape, it will lift the paint. So it's always a good idea to remove it while the paint is wet. All right, so we need to get this completely dry. All right, so we're going to swap tools here. So I'm going to take my sponge out of my water and I'm going to wring it out. I'm just going to set it down here for a moment because I want to push my foam roller down into the water and let it fill up with water so the paint will not dry in that roller till I can go clean it. I've had that same roller for almost 5 years. So they will last you as long as you take care of them. All right, so I'm going to grab a paper towel, squeeze out any moisture that might be in there. Excess moisture, we want it damp, so we don't want to take out all the moisture. But we do want to squeeze some of that out. And then we are going to tape off the bottom. Let me dry my hands here so my tape will be sure and stick. Pull off my... That is not long enough. So I'll do that again. All right, I'm going to tape just above the line this time. Make sure I'm making a straight line here. And then push that down on the edge that's where you're going to be painting. You don't have to necessarily push it down on the other side. And we're going to paint this in with, let's see, what did I paint it in with? I got my instructions over here because I don't know if I can remember everything that I did. So we're going to use some raw umber, it looks like. So I'm going to put some raw umber out. And that did not look like it was shook up very well. And I'm going to grab that. I'm actually going to lift this up. And I want to go across this way because we're making a tabletop. So let's keep our brush strokes or sponge strokes going the direction that we need. And smooth it out. We're going to do 2 coats on here. So let me dry this one. Should just take a minute. It's not a very big area. I'm using a Ranger Heat It tool, which you can purchase on Amazon. I think they're about $29. I do have some Amazon affiliate links below. Oh, I didn't want that off yet. I got to put another coat on there. I do have some Amazon affiliate links below in the description, but I don't have that in there yet. I was trying to remember everything that you could get. Some of the stuff you can get on my website, but you could also get on Amazon, so I put them on there anyway. So a second coat here. Fill that in. Okay, now I can remove the tape. There we go. And my pink line still looks like it's still on there, so I didn't get quite up to my line. I think I'll tape off again and bring that brown up just a little bit. Cover that pink line. Oops. Now I've never ever, in all the years that I've painted and used Scotch tape, I've never had it lift my paint, but I think right there it may have just lifted it, so I'll have to look and see. Okay. There we go. That looks much better. Cover up that pink line. Nope, that's just where the gray was weird. Okay, let's get that dry. And while I'm drying it, I'm going to drop this sponge down in here with this. And this can go in the trash. We're done with that. Okay, make sure it is nice and dry. Okay? Don't want it hot, don't want it wet. Those are 2 important things. Now, right here where the 2 meet, if you feel any kind of a ridge from your paint at all, which you shouldn't if you taped it off and just did thin layers, you should not feel a ridge. I do not feel a ridge on mine. But if you do, you want to take a fine, really fine sanding pad. This is super incredibly fine, like there's no, I don't feel any kind of grit thing to it or not. I don't know if this is for using on ceramics or what, but we got it in a box at an auction one year, and it was like big sheets of it, and I just cut it up into small pieces. But you can use a brown paper bag and do the same thing. Just go across where those 2 meet You want it nice and smooth. If you've got any kind of ridge on there, when we paint our vase, it will show up in our vase. And we don't want it showing up in our vase. So take the time and sand that. Super easy. Brown paper bag does the same thing as an ultra soft sanding pad, just so you know. All right, let's grab our line drawing, and I'm going to put it on here. Okay. I'm going to try and tape it in place a little bit or it won't move. And we're going to transfer on all of our lines. Now when I do my roses, I'm just going to do like the idea of something being there. Doesn't have to be anything detailed at all. So I'm using gray graphite. Now with gray, it has a dull side and it has a shiny side. The shiny side always goes down, but if you forget, you can write on the side that is not shiny, top. Hi Mary, thanks for joining. Okay, so I'm just going to use a stylus and I'm going to go around my lines. Now, here is where you might want a T-square to come up against your surface. And make sure that you are transferring straight lines. I'm going to get a thinner stylus. So where it curves and the curve stops, that's where your straight line will start and go down to here where that one curves. So if you want to do your side edges and make sure that they are straight, and then you can just go in and transfer in the remaining lines. And kind of connect them all. Now you can do this with a red pen if you can't tell where you're going. Down here, it's going to be a flat bottom, but then it's curving up on both edges. So I'm just going to give a little, kind of little wiggle line right there to show that there is a rose that's going to be there. And then I'm going to just transfer pretty much all my lines in. This is probably what will take the longest in the whole project. Okay, then our rose stem here. We've got a leaf here, and we've got our calyx here, and then we're just going to give kind of a rough little wiggle for that rose. We've got a leaf here, and then this stem that comes off from our stick. We've got some calyx here. Calyx will be the last thing that we paint in. And then our rose with the two buds on it. And leaves. And then our stick. I think I painted green. Drew the main part of the stick in here. And your stick thing can go any direction that you want it to go. If you look at the reference photo, mine is different. Just because mine is a different size of canvas. I think I went over some of those lines more than once, so that's why a red pen is a good idea. Okay, I missed this rose here, so we're just going to give a little shape for a rose. I'm just lifting up so I can see if I got all of my details on here. And all of my leaves, and I did go over those lines up there in that stick many times. Okay, it looks like I got everything. I can always come back in and add it if I need to. So I'm going to remove my graphite paper and my line drawing. Now you can trace your line drawing onto tracing paper, which is what I've done here. you can print it on vellum. Then you have a good sturdy line drawing that you can use multiple times. And I mean, you can use this one multiple times too, but if you do a lot of painting with the same pattern, then it is, it can get wore out on this tracing paper pretty quickly. So I buy my tracing paper on Amazon, big rolls of it. It's fairly affordable, I think. All right, so now we need to measure up here and mark a line. I think I did 3/4 of an inch. Oh, let me read my instructions. That'd probably be a good idea. Let's see, I said 1/2 inch. Let's see. I think my original one is 3/4. Let me measure it. Yep, it's 3/4. So in my instructions I put 1/2 inch, but it is actually 3/4 of an inch from the bottom. Of course, if you are doing a larger piece, you'll definitely want to adjust your table height and your width of the edge of it. So I'm going to put a line along here. And that is for my table edge. Okay. And let me grab my easel so I can get it up close to you. And we're going to start by putting some base coats on this stuff. Basing in our vase and our leaves and stuff. So we're going to grab our blue out. And let's see. Dark green here. And we need, let's see, our light green. And some buttermilk. We don't need a whole lot of all these colors, so. Boy, I really went over those lines on that several times. Alrighty. I didn't use very many brushes on this. Looks like I used 4 or 5 brushes. So I've got a 10 flat, a 1/4 inch angle, a 6 filbert, and this one's pretty worn out. It's kind of rough looking. So, you know, really any kind of worn brush will do. I've got a 10-0 liner and a 2 round or a 1 round, whatever you have that will work for you. So I'm going to start with the 10. Wake up my brush. Just go ahead and put all these brushes out so they'll be handy when I need them. Alright, so let me spritz my palette with some water. I always spritz it with my water bottle right here. Okay, we're going to paint in our vase with our blue here. And everything will take a couple of coats, so go under my rose here. This is just your basic color book painting right here when you're putting in your base coats. Just stay inside your lines. Curve down to that flat bottom. And I'll have to check and make sure I've got everything straight when I get done painting. On my vase here, because I know when I painted my original one, you can't always trust that the artist has drawn in the line drawing perfect. So you do have to use your judgment and make sure that everything comes together like it's supposed to, and it lines up and it's straight. And you know, I could have been having a crooked eye the day I painted that in. Who knows? Alright, so for our little roses here, get this blue out of my brush. Had a ton of it in there. All right. I'm just going to take my buttermilk here and just kind of rough in a shape for the roses. Again, I don't want you to get too caught up in, you know, how they're supposed to look. I'm going to kind of stay off of my vase here. When I paint the rose in, it will all come together there. All right, we got 2 little buds here. You can certainly go down to a much smaller brush than what I'm using. Okay. That is really bright on there. I'll bring it down this way. You can see it a little bit better. You let me know how it's showing up for you, because to me it looks incredibly bright. And I could turn out some lights, but I don't know if that's going to help or not. Okay, I'm going to go to my round brush here. And we'll go into our dark green. And we're just going to paint all these little leaves in. Now this green is a little bit transparent, but it's got a little bit of a brown color in it, I feel like. It leans more towards the brown side. I really like it. I think it's a great color for leaves. These are just little, almost oval or teardrop shaped leaves. They're nothing fancy. If you look at the original, I tried to keep shapes and everything as true to the original as possible. I'm not saying that it worked out every time. It gets this paint off my hands before I get it somewhere else. That leaf goes to the rose. So I think that's all the leaves that are over here. The rose leaves, we can paint in the leaves. We're not going to do the calyx. We'll do the calyx later, but we can go ahead and paint in a coat on the leaves with that light green, I think is what I did. Yep, eucalyptus. No, that's not eucalyptus. I didn't get my eucalyptus out. That's not the right color. Eucalyptus. Okay, that color's way too light. So I hope eucalyptus was on the paint list. If not, I'm going to have to go make that change. Let me remove this. That's too bright. So eucalyptus is a little bit darker. Really, this leaf here I'm not going to worry too much about, because I think when I paint my rose in, it will go over that, and I'll have to paint it in again anyway. So all those leaves, and don't worry about the calyx. We're going to do that. That'll be one of the last things that we do. Okay, let's go ahead and get our second coats in, and then while all the second coats are drying, we're going to go down and work on our table. So I'm going to get a little bit of water in that paint. What can you use instead of eucalyptus? I use colonial, but it might be too light. Is that colonial green? I don't think I have that color. You could use green lagoon if you have that color. Colonial green probably should be pretty close, I would think. Seems like it would be. All right, your second coats, if you've ever painted with me, you know they don't have to be heavy coats. Your first coat doesn't need to be heavy. Your second coat is just filling in where maybe all the paint of the first coat didn't quite cover. So the second coat should always be far quicker than the first ones, because you don't have to worry about staying inside your lines. You're just getting a quick little additional thin layer on here that is getting it a little bit more opaque in how it looks. Okay, back to my round brush. And we'll do a quick second coat on these leaves. Add a little bit of water in there. When we get done painting all this stuff up here in, we'll come in and erase any graphite lines we didn't go over. Don't feel like your graphite lines, you have to be exact with them. I don't always get out to the edge of mine or have mine the same shape as what I've transferred the lines on with. I just go in when I'm done, and anything that I can erase, I will erase, and it doesn't matter. Because once they're gone, you don't know that they were there. And okay, let's do our other leaves, and then we'll start. Oh, now it's stuck in that light green again. That's really quick. So if you're looking for the pattern for this, you can head over to lonnalamb.com and grab your pattern for it. All right, let's work on the table. So on the table, so just paint off my hands. We're going to put out the raw umber, the black, and the pebble. I believe those are the only colors that I used on there. Oh, burnt sienna. So I have 2 bottles of burnt sienna here. Weird. So there's my pebble. You won't need a whole lot. This piece is not that big, so burnt sienna, raw umber. I really need to shake this one up. It wasn't shook up very well when I painted on my tabletop. And some lamp black. Alright, so those are all the colors we're going to use in our table. And you don't need near as much as what I put out there. I mean, if you're doing a larger piece, you might need more. But for the size that we're painting here, you don't need that big. So I'm going to be using my 10 flat, which is what I use to base coat the larger parts up in here. And I used my round brush there. So we're going to grab some black and mix some of that raw umber into it and make a dark color here. Now you can use a detail liner to do this, or a round brush, whatever is going to make it easier for you. But we're just going to come in here and add some, start adding some texture and some different stuff in here. We're going to start adding the shadow under here. Kind of comes back off that way. This side, this whole side of the tabletop will be the darkest. So we'll start with this mix of color and just start laying in a few places along your table. Nothing. Make sure that they're going straight though, that they're not curved or going uphill in some way. I'm just going to wipe that paint off on my paper towel. Let me see if I can get my paper towel in the shot here. So I just wiped my paint off there. I'm going to go load some black onto it now and do the same thing. Put some, maybe I want a little bit longer one here. We're going to be putting some different colors on top of this, so I'm going to definitely darken up my little shadow here. And all this stuff back here. Alright, just some little little lines in there. Not making them great big or anything, so don't, they probably look big to you because we're zoomed in, but they're not big at all. All right, I'm gonna wash my brush. Staying with the same brush, we're gonna take our raw sienna and I'm gonna add a little bit of water to it. I want it nice and flowy. I'm gonna tap my paper towel. I always tap my paper towel before I go to my surface because I don't like, if there's a lot of paint buildup on the end of it, I don't like going to my surface with that because it's just too much. We're just gonna brush some of this through here. So you should be starting to see a little bit of that raw sienna color. Or burnt sienna. It's not raw sienna, it's burnt sienna. I'm gonna have you all confused. Okay, so if you need to, I think I did on my original one, so I'll just go ahead and do it on this one. Sand a little bit of your black paint or your mix of black and brown, whichever you want, and add some really fine detail lines. The ones that we just added in there first, they're a little bit thicker than these with the detail liner. These are going to be very, very thin. And really create some more aged look to this tabletop. I really like the idea of it looking pretty old. Okay, but just a little bit over here. Of course, once we darken that edge, we probably won't see a lot of that. Okay, since I have this brush, I'm just going to go ahead and go into my pebble and do the same thing. And add some thin lines in here. I'm kind of taking my finger and where it starts and stops, smoothing it out so it doesn't leave any kind of hard line. Just up on the tip of this brush. Making a tabletop is pretty easy. It's just really all about the illusion of the wood in this. And you know, you can obviously get extremely detailed with all of this coloring and wood grain on here. It just really depends on how much detail, how much realistic detail you want in there. Okay, just a couple over here. Yeah, I think that's good enough. That's really good enough. All right, we're going to take our flat brush now and we're going to take that brown and black mix. It's raw umber and lamp black. Okay, and we're going to just drag this from this side over. I'm just lightly skimming. We'll darken it here in a minute and make it a little bit darker, but this side of the table is going to be our dark edge. And we're going to put some underneath our front edge here. A little bit back in here in just a few places. Down here, maybe you want a little bit. Just here and there. If you feel like you've lost like your burnt sienna or your raw umber, you can come back with those colors and add those back in. Get a little bit more of this color, a little bit more black. Definitely want to make sure we know where that edge is. And I'm going to darken up a little bit more over here. I don't have very much paint on my brush, and I'm kind of dry brushing it on there. Not covering up everything, but just bringing in a little darkness here and there. Okay? Keep it easy. Don't stress about it. Don't I'd angle out a little bit so I can keep the whole table in the camera shot. Kind of getting underneath my palette photo there. Okay, because I feel like I could use a little bit more of that burnt sienna, just a little bit back in here. So we can bring some of that back in, just scrubby-dubby. All right, I'm going to go to my round brush now, and we're going to take some of that pebble, and we're going to create the top edge here. And I'm just going to kind of dry brush it in there, kind of scrub it out. Just along that front edge there. I want it to be messy and irregular, and we'll bring some of this out and about throughout our tabletop here. And then we'll come back in with probably some raw umber and go over those a little bit so it kind of sets them back in there. Now if you're using a canvas, it's going to grip the paint, and it's definitely going to give it a little bit different look than me being on this smooth wood surface. So yours will look different, and I really like the way it looked on the canvas because the canvas would grip the paint and create a little bit more texture in there. So just some little dabbing and smushing and whooshing and rubbing, and don't be afraid to use your fingers. And we'll go about to there. I think that's pretty good. I probably will brighten up just along that edge with a little bit. I'm going to side load some black. I know I said we probably wouldn't be doing, well, I don't know if I did say that or not. We wouldn't be doing a lot of side loading stuff, but there are a couple places in here that it will be required, but not too many. I mean, the design doesn't really kind of call for that type of stuff. It's a very simpler design. That's why I titled it Simplicity. All right. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to take a little bit of raw umber because it's a little bit more of a transparent color. If you don't have raw umber, you could use asphaltum. It's pretty close to raw umber. Wash over just a little bit. And then I'm going to brighten just on that edge, just in a couple places. Some brighter color here. Okay, and now back here, if yours is not dark enough, you can also float a little bit of that mix of the black and the brown. And I think I'm going to do the shadow around my vase one more time, but I think we're done with the tabletop. And if your line is still visible, if you didn't cover it, be sure and remove that. Now if you use the kind of pencil that I use, you can just remove it with paint or water. Okay, our little shadow coming off of our vase. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, we're ready to start working on our vase. We are going to be using our turquoise and then that dark blue that I told you wasn't on the list. So you let me know if you need that, if you need the packet resent to you. And then we'll be using white. So I'll put some white out. And hopefully you can see all of those colors right there. Our our dark blue, our light blue, and then I put the white over here. Okay, we'll also be needing black for this as well. So I'm going to draw an area on the vase to kind of give you an idea of where we're going to be placing color on here. So we want to come probably right about there, not quite half at the top. And we're going to come down and just create a little kind of wobbly little area right there. This is the area that is going to be concentrated with the lighter colors, and then all of this area will be the darker colors. Okay, now the brush that I used is just a worn out scruffy, it's a filbert brush. It's a size 6. You can see that it's all frayed on the edges, so this is a perfect brush for this, and I am going to use it wet. Okay, we're going to start with our turquoise and mix some white with it. Get some of that moisture out of my brush. And we're just going to do a dabbing technique on here, you know, and just kind of a loose little dabbing. And I don't have a lot of paint on my brush. I worked it in so that the paint is really dispersed on there, and then you can touch your paper towel to remove some of it. I'm going to come down into that dark area. I'm going to wipe my brush off, grab just the turquoise, and tap a little bit of that. We won't really see that too much, but it will take that lighter color down. Now I'll wipe my brush out. I'm going to get my dark blue, and I'm going to mix it with my turquoise. Tap my paper towel, and then just very loosely tap this in here. We can always go back and grab that lighter color if this gets too dark. We definitely want this to come into our dark area a little bit. It'll be covered up by that dark, but we want to bring that in there. I'm going to wipe my brush off and get just the dark blue this time. Work that into my brush, touch my paper towel, and touch it again. I feel like there's a lot of paint on there. And then we're just going to dab some of this darker stuff in here. I'm going to keep this darker color closer to the dark edge, to the dark side. It's going to the dark side. Okay, I'm going to wipe off and go back to my white and light blue. I have not washed my brush. I have just wiped the excess paint off and gone into my next color. A little bit of this back in here, and just kind of go back and forth until you know you've got a loose little texturing stuff in there that you like. We'll be bringing some really dark color in here in a minute. I'll see if I can paint in the dark area with this brush. It might be too rough, but I'm going to take my blue and mix some black in with it. This will make a really dark blue, but it will remain a little bit more of a transparent blue. And we're going to paint this side. And as I bring it up to where it meets that lighter color, I'm just going to start tapping that and bringing it over into that light. We don't want a hard transition line here. Wipe off, and I'm just going to tap and bring some of that mix of that dark blue and black mix into that. Okay, that'll all be getting darker as we go here, but for now we've got that blue-black mix in there. Okay, I'm going to wash my brush out because I want to bring a little bit of the turquoise and white mix back in. here. And I think the turquoise and blue mix that I have here, to mix a little bit more. Not enough there to get on my brush. Okay, I'm gonna wipe my brush out. Well, actually, I'm not gonna do that yet because I want to put some black, some darker in on this side. So I'm gonna take my black. Does not look like black. It is a black, but it looks weird. All right, I'm gonna take my black. I'm gonna mix just a tiny little bit of blue in with it. I don't want it to be as blue this time, but it can still have that little tint of blue. And we're gonna go along this side and darken all of this and darken down here. It looks almost black in this area. Okay, I'm going to wipe my brush off so I can kind of let that blend out into that darker blue a little bit. And grab a little bit more, and then we can tap. Tap and bring some of that darker stuff in here. This is just the really shadowed side of this vase. I think that photograph really showed that shadow side very well. A little bit more of the black. And I'm going to go just into the blue by itself and put a little bit more of that in here. Okay, I'm going to wash out my brush, and I'm going to make a gray color. So I'm going to mix some of that black blue color to make a gray, a blue gray color. Actually, I want to get my round to do this one. Let me grab my round brush. A little bit more of that black in there. I'm going to dab a little bit down here into this dark area and kind of rub that with my finger, and it's going to push that into that black a little bit, but it's going to give us that little bit of highlight. I'm going to put a little bit of reflective light over here on the edge. And take this color down here for a reflective highlight. And on the canvas, it's going to obviously pull, P-U-L-L, a little bit more so that you'll see it a little bit better. We're going to put a little bit of this gray over here on the edge that I've mixed here. For that side, I've got some paint out here in my brown, so I'm going to grab my eraser and erase that. Okay, let's do our light highlight. And our light highlight is going to be our white and our turquoise mixed together, mostly white. And I'm just going to use this brown or round brush. We're going to put a little bit up here. And then we're going to come right here where it kind of, where the fattest part of the curve is, and then we're just going to drag that down. This is white and blue, turquoise, white and the turquoise. Drag that down that side. I'm going to wipe the paint out of my brush and grab just white, and we'll brighten here, a little bit here, and down the center. And I think that's the only highlights I put on there. I did add a little bit of the dark mix, which is the black and the blue. sure it goes all the way to that edge there. All right, and there's our vase. Can't get much easier on that vase than that. I'm going to break up that highlight just a little bit with some turquoise. Maybe turquoise and blue mix. Dark blue. Okay. I feel like it's too wide or something. Not really sure. Okay, we're done with the vase. So the tabletop and the vase are both done. Super easy to do. All right, we're going to finish this area right through here. So we're going to, let's see. Let's see what I did with the stems. This is raw umber and midnight blue mixed together. So we'll take our raw umber. I'm going to use my round brush. This is where you might want to go to a detail liner. Hello from Ireland, first time. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you'll hit that subscribe button. And thanks so much for joining. So we're going to make the stem on this one, the raw umber and the midnight color. Add a little bit of water in there. Which that raw umber has a little bit of brown to it. So it's kind of almost making a really dark green here. A green with a little blue tint. We'll come back and do our veins and all of this stuff later. Not really sure where that one's coming from. Didn't draw my line in there very good, and that is really thick. We don't want these. This is such a delicate leaf thing. We don't want those to be overly thick. Best if I follow my line there since I already got paint on it. So I'm going to stay up on the very tippy toe of this brush. That's why if you want to use a round brush or a detail liner, you could use that and get these in there nice and thin. And I missed a leaf here, it looks like. Somewhere in here there was an extra leaf, I remember, so I'll just paint that in. Okay, we're going to go ahead and finish out these leaves because they're super quick. So I'm going to take my black and my green that we based them in with and make a dark green color, like a black green. There's no sense in getting an extra bottle of paint out because we can make black green right there. We're just going to put a little bit at the base of all the leaves. Now the base of the leaf is the part that connects to the stem or the twig or whatever. That is always the base of the leaf. We're just going to put some of this dark color in here. Definitely have to bring a stem or vein into that one. And I'm just kind of dabbing it in at the base. Not too technical. These are not our focal point. We just want to have a little bit of dark and light values on these leaves. Alright, so that is our dark color on there. So I'm going to put a lighter color on here. Let's see, what color did I use here? I'm going to use eucalyptus leaf, which is this color here. And I'm just going to dab some of this on the ends. I'm not doing a lot of detail on these leaves here. These are darker leaves. They don't need a whole lot of stuff going on with them. And just be loose about it. Don't stress out. Okay, so let's see. Let's see. Let's connect our stuff here, and I use that umber and midnight blue. I think I'll add a little bit of the light green in there. Not the light green, the eucalyptus. I want to create some veins coming in these. That's very bright. Tone that down. Okay, some of these just need some connecting stuff that I might have missed. One I painted in the, or a little bit of vein in it. If you're all connected, you probably don't have to worry about that. I don't really like this one here. It's very stiff and rigid. See if I can change that. Give it a little curve there. All right, let's paint the stems in for our roses. They are, stems for the roses are evergreen and moon yellow, so we don't have moon yellow out yet. So let's get some of that out. Oh man, that moon yellow's thick. It's got a chunk in it of something. Okay, I have to throw that bottle away. That was not looking the best. Okay, what did I say? Evergreen and moon yellow. I don't think that's the color I used. It says evergreen and moon yellow, but that looks awful dark. Let me try this one, because mine are not that dark. Alright, let's use the eucalyptus leaf and yellow. That looks more like the color. Too much water in my brush. Okay. The stems are substantial but not overly thick, so right down into the vase. I beef this one up a little bit. Okay. All right, we're going to work on all this sticky stuff here, the sticks. Okay, we're going to use raw umber and black and mix them together. Now I'm going to be using two brushes here to paint these in. I'm going to be using this round brush, and then I'm going to use my detail liner for the tips of them. Okay. All right. So we're going to start here where it comes out. I need a little bit more black in there, make it a little bit more opaque, less water. And we're going to make this a little fat down here. It kind of curves away from the rose there a little bit. And then I've got one coming off of it here. And I'm sure I won't paint this in the exact same way that I painted in my original. I never do. So this is kind of fat here. And I'm going to take it up, and then I'm only going to go about to there because the rest of that I want to be super thin. So I'm going to paint in the thickest areas with this round brush. come back with my detail brush and finish out the rest of this stuff and get those nice thin areas on the ends of them. Okay. And follow your lines the best you can. I kind of got mine wild in here, I feel like. And then this one comes across, but I'm going to finish it out. And I think this one comes from here. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I'm going to say. And then this one from here. Okay. All right, I'm going to grab up my detail liner here and go into this mix. I'm going to have some water to make sure it's thin so it flows off of the end of my brush. And then we're just going to come in here and do these thin ones, and it's okay if you don't follow your lines exactly. I have to mix some more paint here. And take a little bit of my dirty water and thin that down. If it doesn't want to flow off of your brush very easily, you're up on the tip of the brush, then you need to add more water to it. These have very kind of soft, wispy edges on them, or ends on them. And mine are a little bit different than the original because the original was so tall, and I kind of just was winging mine. Looking good. I'll give this one a little bit of a curl so it pulls away from that one. So I just changed it up a little bit from the line drawing. This is where you can put your own little touch on it. I'm going to have to erase some of my graphite lines around that, but that's okay. We're going to add a little bit of a highlight on here. So we're going to take our pebble and our raw umber and just make a lighter color. And you only want this to go, a little bit more pebble I think, you only want this to go where it's going across another branch. So like I decide I want that one on top. So it's mostly pebble with a little bit of that, either that mix or the raw umber. So I want this one to be on top here. So we'll put our highlight there. Okay, and I want this one to be on top. And this one to be on top. Oh, I missed one there, I didn't paint in. So we'll make this one on top here. I'm just making sure any that are crossing over, I got them all. Let me finish this one. I didn't paint this one in right here. Okay. Now we can take a little bit of just black with this brush, and we can go right here and darken just a little bit where it goes under the rose. This is just a little tiny bit of paint. We'll put some here. This gives a little look of a shadow here. So then we'll put some right next to, or right on the ones that are under. So let's see, where was I at? Right here. So this one goes over, so we'll put a little bit here. Now all these little details help make it look more realistic. So don't stress about these little details here, because they really help it look much more realistic. And depending on how dark you got your initial mix, this may not even show up for you, so you may not even have to do it. This is just really separating these. The highlight pops them forward, and then the shadow here will set the other things back. And if you have to go back over them, you can. And that's pretty much going to finish up our stem. I do want to put a little bit of a highlight down here on this one here. Down there on that. And a little bit through here. This is with that pebble. Maybe you could add some white in here and brighten up these highlights. Actually, this one I thought went over, but I've created that as an under now, so I'll have to put some black on there. Okay, I think that does that pretty good. I'm not going to do much more than that, because it really doesn't need much more detail than that. So I'm going to wide angle out. I want to erase those graphite lines now. So I'm going to go around all this stuff. I'm not going to erase my calyx because we haven't painted those in yet, but I can go around everything else and erase any graphite lines that haven't been painted over, or I went a different direction. And the calyx will stay. And then all of this will look much cleaner and better because our eye is not fighting against all those lines that were on there. Okay, brush that away from your palette because you will be very sad if you get that in your palette. Trust me, I know from experience. All right. Everybody doing okay? Any questions out there? Hope you're all sticking in with me. All right, you ready to go to the roses? Okay. Our roses, we're going to use an angle brush. You can use a flat brush, like a flat chisel. This is an 8, or you could use a 6. Those would do well for roses as well. So we're going to have our moon yellow and our white. I'm going to put some fresh moon yellow out. Might see if I have a different bottle. I do have a different bottle. Let me grab that other bottle. See if it's any better. Because that one is really, really thick and chunky. Better. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, let me move some of this white over here. This will make it much easier to mix this. get that moisture out of my brush, I'm going to load my brush with white. Get that moisture out, my ferrule. I'm going to load my brush with white, and I feel like I got too much water in my brush, so let me just empty that. Whites just are notoriously not opaque. You would think white would be the most opaque color ever. And in some paints, it's not too bad. And some brands make an opaque white. But overall, I've not found a white paint that's incredibly opaque. So I just put the corner of the brush. So on an angle brush, there is a toe and a heel. The long part is the toe and the short part is the heel. I loaded the whole brush with white and then side load, or just load the heel into that yellow. Oops. So load the whole brush with white, heel into yellow, and then blend them. That is way too much paint there. Grab a little bit more white. I'll have to put some more fresh white out. I already got yellow in my white. Okay, so when we're painting roses, we get caught up in all the petals and the movement and all that stuff that goes with it. Now, I don't want you to worry too much about the movement of these. If you look at the original photo, this one is kind of up like that. We can't see the center. And this one is kind of turned back. We can't see the center. I kind of made these reverse when I painted them, but this one is open. So we're going to start with the open one. I'm going to get a little bit more white on the toe of my brush. And let me get you in here so you can really see what I'm doing. I'm just going to stroke this out here and just push that white edge of the brush out and just make a loose little grouping of strokes. So already it's looking like something. Okay, I'm going to reload with some more white, a little bit of yellow on my brush. Okay, and we'll go out here to these, and this one we're just going to put some loose strokes there for our back row. And we'll do this one. Okay, nothing hard about it at all, right? Okay, let's keep going. All right, so for this one, this will probably be the hardest part of the whole painting right here, of painting the flowers, because you have to kind of lift that heel just a little bit, because we want a stroke in there. And we're going to stroke this way and this way. We're just pushing that white along that edge there and making some more kind of petal shapes. I do want to put some yellow down in the center, so I'm going to take the heel of my brush and just put some yellow in there. I'm going to come back and work on that some more here in a minute. Moving all over my palette here because I feel like I'm getting my yellow over too far. All right, so we've got all of these strokes on here. Okay, so we're just going to come back and make some strokes going this way. So we can't see inside that. We'll come back with some white and really brighten on these, but we need that little bit of yellow. Now in the reference photo, they're white roses, but white roses are a little bit harder to paint. So it's just the toe, the pointy part of this brush that we're pushing out and scooping and laying in some strokes here. Okay, we'll be coming back and adding a little bit of more detail in there. So I'm going to come along here with another layer. This one will be similar. I'm going to have to wash my brush out. I got way too much yellow on there. Reload with just white and then the corner in the yellow. Alright. Now with this one I kind of chisel edged and created some sharper strokes in there. Just to make them a little bit different. Go up and create a little bit of a curved, bigger petal, if that makes sense. And then just come in here and just some little strokes. That's all we're doing. We're just doing easy strokes. Okay, let's go back to this little one down here, and we'll put a few strokes in here, just white. Okay, so we've got a good start here to our roses. Okay, so we're going to take this, I'm going to take my yellow and put some yellow. I'm lifting up the toe of the brush and just placing some yellow down there. I'm going to wipe off my brush and just load it with some white. And we'll just create a little line, because I'm lifting up on the toe there, and a little line there. We're not really going to see inside these buds or anything. They're just there. All right. Before we go on, add a little more white on there. I'm going to add some, I think some dark green down in the center here. Just a few little taps in there. Okay, so when we come back and brighten on our yellow here, you can go back to your angle brush, or you can use a round brush. I used a angle brush on my original, but I'm going to show you how to do it with a round brush, where you can just brighten up if your white will show up. That's the hard part there. On the very edge of your, get some of that moisture out of my brush. The very light edge of your rose petals. And we don't want it to be a line, so if it seems like a hard line, and take my angle brush, like this one I feel like is kind of a hard line, I'm just going to blend that out with just a damp brush right there. We don't need those extreme hard lines on there. This one, it did pretty well with getting the white more on top on those petals, but on this one here, I want to try and get a little bit more out here. And we're going to come in and add a little line of dark color to separate those petals a little bit, so we'll get them there. We'll get them there. All right, so in the center here on this one, let's add a little bit of the, I think the eucalyptus leaf, if it will show up. Doesn't want to release off my brush here. There we go. A little bit brighter green in there, which I can see, but I'm not sure how well that is showing up on the camera. And then we can take some moon yellow and a couple of little bright dots in there. Okay, that's the center of that flower. All right, so we want to take on our roses and darken a little bit between the roses themselves. So I'm going to use the moon yellow and the, I think I used raw umber here. Yeah, so I'm going to take a tiny little bit of raw umber and my moon yellow and darken that yellow just slightly. It's almost going to dirty the yellow. And this is where you can come in here and put this color and separate some of your petals a little bit and give it a little bit more of a rose look. Now, this is not, you know, detailed rose stuff. This is just a simple little rose that sort of looks like a rose. So don't get caught up in trying to make it look exact. I think that's where we all see the rose in our eye, you know, in our head, in our mind, and we want to paint what we see in our mind. Ultimately, you're just painting in strokes. So you don't want to get caught up in how that rose is supposed to look in your mind, because that's just not going to be good. Okay, this rose here, actually, this petal right here is going to be gone here in a minute. Let's go ahead and paint in the calyx. Evergreen and moon yellow. And a little bit more evergreen. I'd say two evergreens to one moon yellow. Make it a little bit darker. Calyxes are pretty dark, so we're going to have one here and one over here, and then I put one coming off right here. You can make your calyx however you want. It doesn't have to be like mine. Got one here. I got to go back in and paint that leaf back in, and we got to finish out our stems here. And then this one here. Okay, let's put some up here on our little buds. And I'm sure I won't paint them in just like my original one, but it doesn't have to be the same. Okay, so that's our calyx. Quick little second coat in there. I'm going to paint that leaf back in right there because it comes over this rose here. And grab a little bit of this dark green. I'm going to connect it to the stem here. And then we're going to finish out our stems and our leaves on our roses. And we have one more thing to do on the roses. So I'm going to grab my round brush and I'm going to take that dark green. I don't know if this is exactly how I did it on my original one, but I'm going to go down this edge with that dark green. Just using this 10-0 liner. Whew, that's a lot, but that's okay. It can be darker up there. And try and come down the left side of our stems here. This is probably a very tedious part here. I'm going to make it darker right next to the calyx and where it goes down into the jar. Okay, we can take some of this and add it on our calyx back here. Now you can float this color as well, but everything's so small we don't really need to worry too much about floating, although on those other leaves I probably will do a little bit of floating. Right now I'm just putting it at the base and coming down the left side because that's the side we chose to be our shadow edge. And just putting a little bit up here. Okay, so we can lighten the calyx. Let's see, what color did I lighten them with? Calyx, calyx, calyx. I did a moon yellow and eucalyptus leaf. Janice, what can I use instead of eucalyptus leaf? Let's see. Eucalyptus. Do you have Green Lagoon? You could use that. You could take this green tree that we're going to be using to highlight on here, and you could add a little bit of the evergreen in it. That might get you pretty close to this color. You can see it's pretty much the same tone. It's just darker. So if you've got green tree, you could do that. All right, so the calyx, let's see. I highlighted with just moon yellow. So just grab a little moon yellow on your brush. I think I might add a little white in there. Give it a little bit of more perk of color. And we'll be done with the calyx. Okay, and then on the stem, the rose stem, not really sure. Let me look at my picture. It looks like I did moon yellow, maybe moon yellow and white, because the stem is lighter. So I'm just going to kind of go down at the right edge, mostly just in the center. You know, between areas. I don't want to take it all the way up there. Okay. All right, let's do the leaves. We're almost done with this. Okay, so the leaves, let's see. We're going to use evergreen at our base. This is where I'm actually going to float some evergreen. I'm going to mix some raw umber in with that. Evergreen and raw umber. My paint's starting to dry pretty terribly. Alright, that evergreen and raw umber mix, that will make it a little bit darker. And this petal is actually over that stem there. A little bit more mix here. I don't have any extra moisture in my brush because these areas are so small. We don't want them to, if we get too much moisture in our brush, it's just going to thin the paint too much and we're going to be just fighting with the color. And we're not going to be happy with how it turns out. We'll just be working way too hard, and when you're painting small things, you don't want to work so hard. Okay, let's see, and then yellow and eucalyptus leaf. No, I used the green tree on here somewhere. The green tree, that's what I highlighted with. I think I was reading for the stem. This is that green tree. This is the only place that we used it, so you could probably take your eucalyptus leaf maybe and add some white to it to lighten it. I don't know if it would get it this color, close to this color or not. I could get a little experiment here in a minute. Try it. Okay, I also brought a little bit of turquoise in on my leaves. Just a little bit. And then we got a little vein to put in here. And we're going to take that dark mix, raw umber and evergreen. I'm not sure that's what, yeah, that's what I used. Alright. There we go. Bring all of our veins into these. And then we got one more thing to do here on the roses. We need to take our moon yellow and a little bit of the raw umber, or you could use the burnt sienna. I don't know which one would work better. Probably the raw umber. That's what I used on the other. So raw umber, which is almost completely dried up, and our moon yellow. More moon yellow than raw umber because that is kind of greeny color. I don't want it to be green. And I'm going to shade a little bit right here, and right next to our calyx. And we can put a little bit of this in the center here. This one's a little dark, so I'm going to remove a little bit of it. This one looks okay. A little bit of that on our rosebuds. Not covering up our calyx. See some lines I didn't get erased. So look it over, see if you need any lines erased. I must have had paint on my hand there because I've got paint all over it. And I don't know what that is right there. It's a blob of something. So I think that is going to finish out our project here. Let's wide angle out so we can see it much better. And you know, I always like to bring in my original here and show it, compare it, and see if I got close. And, oops. I think I did pretty good on the vase there. Let me turn off my palette camera. My picture here. There we go. Now we can see them side by side. Wide angle out. And there we have that gorgeous Simplicity painting, which I think is so simple. And it really is going to help you learn a little bit of brush control with those smaller brushes. And, you know, like I said, with the roses, it's just some little strokes in there. We're not trying to get defined flowers. We're just getting the look of flowers. And when you can learn to be a little bit looser and freer and just paint the look of something, it's amazing, amazing, amazing what you can do with your artwork. So this one was incredibly fun for me. One of my absolute favorites. I just love the whole thing about this painting. It just, the way it's off-centered and it has all that stuff coming out of it. I just think it's a gorgeous painting. One of my absolute favorites, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed it. Do I have any questions before I let you guys go? Oh, thank you, Susan. I'm glad that that's going to make the roses a little bit easier. The table and the vase are the hard work. Well, they just require a few more steps, but there's still just a few little lines and some dabbing in there. Just dabbing. And we all can do the dabbing part. So not too difficult to do the dabbing part. Janice, I hope I can do the roses. I'm sure that you can. I always recommend just take a piece of your palette paper and practice doing it on there before you go to your piece. Feel comfortable, you know, with that looser stroke work and trying not to be so precise with everything. Just little strokes here and there. Okay, thank you, Susan. Thank you, Jan. And thank you, Gwen. Thank you, Mary. Do you guys have any more questions for me? Let me make myself a little bit bigger here so you can see me. There we go. There we go. All right. I don't see any more questions popping up. So you guys be sure and hit that subscribe button if you have not already subscribed, and give me a thumbs up for this one. Share it and comment. It all helps me in the YouTube algorithm, which since the COVID thing, they messed up my algorithm so bad that I am going nowhere very quickly, where I was going pretty fast. So if you can subscribe and give me that thumbs up, it's going to help a lot, and I really do appreciate it. And I know I'm not going to be doing a live next Sunday. We're going to be taking care of our grandkids, but I do have a video that will release next Sunday. I'm not sure if it's going to release in the morning or about the same time that I would do a live. So be watching for that, and I'll put the pattern packet up on my website. It's going to be a fall design. So something just fun and playful, and you can paint along with that video. And thank you, Susan. You have a great week too. Oh, yeah. Thank goodness for replay. That's absolutely right. I don't know what I'd do without replay, because there's so many things that I learned from YouTube. So I appreciate you guys hanging in there with me. And right at about an hour and a half, it took a little over an hour and a half, so not too bad. So I hope you guys are going to paint it. Please tag me on social media if you are on Facebook. If we're not friends, ask to be friends so you can tag me. And go over to my Twitter or my Instagram and tag me on there. And all of my social media names are down below in the description below this video. So I will see you guys not next Sunday, but I think the following Sunday, the first Sunday in February. I've already got an idea of what I'm going to be doing, so hopefully I can get it done this week and post a picture of that so you guys will be ready for that. It's going to be with what I am hoping to paint. It will be another one of those easy ones where you'll just get a line drawing and paint along with me that way. So but every now and then I will throw in these ones that require a packet to paint along with me. So you guys, thank you so much. I appreciate every single one of you. Have a wonderful and blessed remainder of your day. Root for my Chiefs, because I really want them to get to the Super Bowl. So you guys root for them, and whatever you do for the remainder of your day, I hope it's a wonderful day for you, and have a wonderful and blessed week. I will see you guys all on the next live, which will be the first Sunday in February, and I am doing a live February 24th over in Creative Innovations and Painting Facebook group. So if you're not a member over there, you want to go over there and ask to join and tell them Lonna sent you. You got to answer the 3 questions in order to join the group. So be sure and answer those 3 questions. All right, everybody, I'll see you soon. Have a great one. Bye-bye.